The Israel-Hamas conflict is rooted in competing claims to the same land. For Jews, the region holds deep religious significance. The Zionist movement emerged in the late 19th century, advocating for a Jewish homeland. The area was inhabited by a large Arab population, predominantly Muslim. Britain gained control of Palestine after World War I. Balancing Jewish and Arab aspirations was a daunting task. Tensions escalated, marked by violence and unrest. In 1947, the UN voted to partition Palestine into two states. War erupted following Israel's declaration of independence in 1948. Israel expanded its territory beyond the UN-designated borders. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians fled or were expelled, creating a refugee crisis. The 1948 war, known as the Nakba, left deep scars. The displacement of Palestinians remains a central grievance today. In the aftermath of the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza Strip, territories with large Palestinian populations. The presence of Israeli military rule and the expansion of Jewish settlements further inflamed tensions. Palestinian resistance movements emerged, employing both peaceful and armed struggle against Israeli occupation. Hamas, an acronym for the Islamic Resistance Movement, emerged from this milieu in the late 1980s. Founded during the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation, Hamas initially focused on providing social services and religious education to Palestinians in Gaza. However, Hamas also harbored a militant wing that carried out attacks against Israeli civilians and military targets. Hamas's ideology is rooted in a combination of Islamism and Palestinian nationalism. The group views Israel's existence as illegitimate and calls for its destruction. Hamas rejects any compromise with Israel and advocates for armed resistance as the only path to liberation. The group's popularity grew among Palestinians disillusioned with the secular Fatah party and frustrated by the lack of progress in peace negotiations. Hamas's commitment to armed struggle and its social welfare programs resonated with many Palestinians living under occupation. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has seen cycles of violence, leaving a legacy of death and mistrust. The First Intifada, 1987 to 1993, saw widespread Palestinian protests and a harsh Israeli response. The Oslo Accords, 1993, aimed for peace but ultimately faltered. The Second Intifada, 2000 to 2005, erupted after failed peace talks and Ariel Sharon's visit to the Temple Mount. It was marked by intense violence, including suicide bombings and military incursions. Israel's 2005 Gaza withdrawal, seen as a Hamas victory, didn't end the violence. Hamas took control of Gaza and Israel imposed a blockade, citing security concerns. The blockade has worsened the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Since 2008, Israel and Hamas have fought 4 major wars, marked by rocket fire and airstrikes. These conflicts have resulted in thousands of casualties, mostly Palestinian civilians. The repeated cycles of violence have deepened the divide, making lasting peace elusive. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict remains one of the world's most intractable conflicts. Deep mistrust, competing narratives, and the absence of a viable peace process continue to fuel the cycle of violence. The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire, with the blockade crippling the economy and fueling despair. Despite the challenges, glimmers of hope emerge sporadically. Civil society organizations on both sides work tirelessly to promote dialogue, understanding, and reconciliation. International actors, though often divided, continue to push for a negotiated two-state solution. Ultimately, a lasting peace will require courageous leadership, painful compromises, and a shared commitment to peaceful coexistence. The path forward is fraught with obstacles, but the alternative endless cycles of violence and suffering is simply unacceptable. The future of Israelis and Palestinians depends on their ability to break free from the shackles of the past and forge a new path toward a shared future.